See, days like this when everything works and the computer works, then you give thanks for all the days that it didn't work. You appreciate it more. All the times I gave a class and then I realized, oh yeah, I didn't record it and the whole thing goes, or if something happens with the computer and it doesn't go up, or maybe this goes wrong, frustrations and aggravations and this, but when everything goes right, it feels good. It's like the joke about the man. I don't remember which jokes I tell you, which I don't, but I'll tell you anyway. That the man is sitting in the plane. I told this a couple of days ago, I think. A man is sitting in the plane, and he's grimacing and he's moaning, and the stewardess says, "Can I help you, sir? Are you all right?" He says, "No, that's okay. I take size 42 shoes and I put on size 32. The stewardess says, "Well, what do you do that for?" He says, "Because when I go home and take them off, it feels so good. I feel so happy." It's the same thing. The bad things make you really appreciate the good, but I think we've had enough bad things. Here we go. Let's see what this is. Okay, so we talked about the Aleph. We talked about the Spheres Omer, did we? All right, no, I don't think we did this. Okay, here we go. So what are we saying? What are we saying? A person has to look at three things and he won't come to do a sin. And the Rebbe says you have to look at yourself, at God, and the world. And you have to have these three things all the time, because in your mind all the time, because the purpose of man in the world is to make this physical world a perfect place. And you can't do that unless you think about yourself. I'm the one responsible to do it. No one else can do it for me. And God is the one that's giving me the power. And I have to do this on his standards. I can't make up my own ideas of what it means to fix up the world. And number three is the world. I have to make sure that I'm doing what I can in the world. Now, this is a little bit tricky, right, in the world, because you can't always expect immediate results. You have to just do what you can, and it has to be done in the world, and leave the results up to God. It's a very, very important thing, because it's very frustrating if you do Torah and you do commandments and you do what you're supposed to do and you don't see any results. Sometimes even things get worse, like the Jews in the communist Russia, how many they killed, right? They were the good people. They were good people. What did they get for it? They got killed and they got murdered and burned and this is it. So it's very, here we have 2,000 years of exile. We've been doing Torah, we've been doing commandments, we've been looking for God, we've been trying to do what he says, we've been this. And there's all these, you can't blame these people that they say, enough Judaism, let's just leave the whole thing. You can't blame them. Because, after it becomes very frustrating. That's why we have to have a Rebbe. We're talking about 2,000 years. The Jewish people heard God say, don't worship idols. 40 days later, when Moses wasn't there, they worshiped the golden calf. What do you want from them? They're stranded in the middle of the desert. They were scared. So it says, therefore, nowadays, don't give up. We, says the Rebbe, are in the beginning of the days of the Moshiach. We just have to do a little more to bring this Aleph into the GEULA. The exile seems very terrible, very threatening, very disappointing. But why? Because it's just missing a little Aleph, a little attitude. We have to have a different attitude toward the world. So this we can also fix up. We can also integrate this with the idea of the now, the times we're in now. Now we are in the days of Sfirat Omer. And especially this week, we're in the month, the week, right? We're supposed to count 7 complete weeks. This week that we just finished was the week of Netzach. Netzach corresponds to victory. It's one of the 7 emotions of God and of us. And also the Torah portion of the week, Achrei Mot Kedoshim. That's what we begin, and we begin to read in Mincha and more. And also Yud Gimel Iyar. Now, Yud Gimel Iyar, the Rebbe is going to talk about, this is the day that his brother passed away. The Rebbe had a brother, Yehuda Aryeh Leib. He was a big genius, and he passed away young. He was like 40 something years old, 40, 42, 43. He passed away. He's buried here in Israel. Yud Gimel Iyar. And the Rebbe is going to give us a good example of how we can use everything to learn something about God. Let's start, first of all, we are now in the days of Sfirat HaOmer. Sfirat HaOmer is a bureau of the Sheva Midos. This is the refinement of our 7 emotions of our natural soul. That's the main work in now the time of exile. Now in these days that we're in exile, there's no holy temple, there's no revelation of God. So that's called exile. That's what we learned before, right? GEULA, without the Aleph, that we have to work on our natural personalities. What does it mean? Not only, like it says, Et Erbas Kadesh Kedusha L'Shom Maila, that I will make you, God says, I will make you holy with the holiness from above. Nifal al Yadezeh, also Sha'olam, also that the world and all of the worlds will be refined, like it says, by means of this, there will be a great flow of godliness in all of the worlds. And by means of this, there will even add on in the souls of those people who serve God, who want to be partners with Hashem, like we continue in the prayer. After we say Sfirat HaOmer, so there's this prayer that you say, may it be God, your will, God, that just like I've counted the Omer, and may you help us and purify our emotions and such like that. And afterwards it says, may there be a big flow of godliness in all of the worlds to fix up our soul, our souls, our spirits, and another word, nafshotenu, and nefesh, ruach, and neshama. How do you say it? Our souls, our spirits, and our life. Bekol sigu pagam, to fix them up from any sort of blemish and purify us and make us holy with your holiness. And by means of, like it says before, like we said before, look at these 3 things and you won't come to do any sins. You won't have any desire to do sins. Look at these 3 things. That's the whole idea of Sfirat HaOmer also, to purify and fix up our souls so that we won't want to do any sins in the world. Let's just take a very simple example. There's all these people sitting in prison, right? And they're sitting in prison because they hurt other people, and they stole, and they did bad things to other people. If all these people that were sitting in prison really had a true value of what life is and what property, that's the 7 Noahide commandments, what life is and what property is, and how much God loves every human being, and every human being is important, including me and you and all these criminals. If the criminals would just have an awareness of this value, true values in their soul, then they wouldn't do these sins. They wouldn't hurt people and do these crazy things. And that's mainly the idea of Moshiach. The Moshiach is going to educate the world as to how precious life is, and how precious property is, and how precious our potential is, and how precious the world is. And that's the idea of Sfirat HaOmer also. Sfirat HaOmer, counting the Omer, means refining your personality and bringing godliness into every aspect of your values and your day-to-day life, so that you can't come even into the hands, even close to doing some sort of a sin or something bad. Al Yidei Avodah Sfirat HaOmer, by means of the service of counting the Omer, namely, that's the same thing as bringing the Aleph. You're bringing this light, the Aleph, into GEULA. Aleph also is the first letter of light, or. It's the first letter also of love, ahava, and faith, emunah, and of courage, omitz. The GEULA, al yedei biru sheva midos, by means of refining our 7 emotions. This brings the redemption, and will bring us back to the service of the Beit HaMikdash in its place quickly in our days. Like we say in the Racham, immediately after we make the blessing. Aracham the what you Bore Beis Hamikdash b'makom v'mir Rabbi Yameinu Sela. In the days of the Sfirat Omer itself, what are we talking about? There are 7 weeks. Well, this week is the week of the 4th week that we're finishing now. This is the aspect of Netzach. Netzach means victory. Netzach also means eternal, but Netzach means victory. Ad until Shlemutam Malchut Shebenetzach, that you complete it, that'll be on Sunday. Malchut Shebenetzach, the lowest aspect of Netzach, which is called the kingship, the revelation of Netzach. After you finish all the chesed of Netzach and Gevura, till you get the Malchut. So we've already finished, we've already finished all of the aspects of chesed and Gevura, etc. And Gevura, Malchut of Gevura, we finished that Tiferet. And then we have Netzach. Netzach is the 4th. And a nitzachon, Netzach means the victory over all of the concealment of exile. The Rebbe is going to connect this to his brother's name also, but we'll have to do that tomorrow, Friday. Ad until Netzach Shebenetzach, victory of victory, Hod Shebenetzach, the beauty of victory. Yesod Shebenetzach means that it'll be firm, the victory will be firm until Malchut Shebenetzach. This is the idea of the Melech HaMashiach. The Mashiach is going to be called the king. That he will be victorious over the whole entire world. The beginning, Parshas Achrei, okay, that was talking about Sfirat Omer. Now let's talk about the Parsha of the week. Achrei Mot. It's speaking about the service of Aaron, what he did in the high priest in the Holy of Holies. Similar, something like the redemption. In the future, the whole world will be like the Holy of Holies. What was the Holy of Holies? It was simply a revelation of the truth. That God is creating the world, that's the world. But He's creating the world for a purpose, that's the Holy of Holies. A Kohen Gadol, the Kohen, the high priest and the Holy of Holies, this is the Makom that's the holiest, the most revealed place of God in the world. Makom Shabo Meir, the godliness is revealed without any concealment. And it was revealed, though, in the world. It was at a physical place in this world. And the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, he would go in there as a human being, a living human being, not like none of an Aviu that they went in there and they died. In other words, a human being that would go in and he would come out. This is going to be similar to this is going to be with all Kohen, with all the priests, that all the Kohanim were separated, like it says, V'yavdil Aaron l'hakdisho kodesh kodeshim, all of the Kohanim, all of the priests, and the Kohanim were all holy of holies, above the world. But where did they do their service? They didn't do it above the world, in the spiritual world. They didn't go into a trance. They did their service as a soul in the body. In a world, in a place that the opposite of holy, the world. And there they did the commandment, like it says, Emor la Kohanim b'nei Aaron, the nefesh lo yitama b'amav. Only in this physical world where there's all this defilement, that's where they could attain the Holy of Holies. That's the shleimus inyan Torah. The idea, true idea of refinement will be the holy temple. The real, truly idea of the holy temple will be only in the future redemption by means of the Mashiach. Why? Because then this will be revealed in the whole world. Ma'ayin hachana, a little bit of a preparation now in the time of exile, when the Kohanim were careful not to defile themselves. We can say that this is a preparation for the ultimate level of purity that there will be in the future, including too, like it says, Omar la Kohanim v'amarta, the Gedolim ala Katanim, that the elders should warn even the children. In other words, that it says everyone will go out of their ignorance and their lack of awareness of God. In addition to the opposite, to being careful from things that are negative, the Kohen also had to do his service in the holy, in the kadosh, in his garments of priestly garments. There's priestly garments, it says, were kavod l'tifaros, that they were for honor and for splendor. In other words, taking the physical world and making it beautiful. That was the garments of the priests. Physical cloth and physical, and using it in order to, physical things to make this physical world beautiful. And that would explains why the Kohen, that explains why if a Kohen went into the Holy of Holies and he was missing garments, it said that was one of the reasons that for the death of Nadav and Avihu, they were missing garments. That is, the service that he does in the Holy Temple is no good. Why? Because the garments, only when the garments are on them, then the holiness of the priesthood is on them. They haven't got all their garments, then the priesthood is not on them. Why? Because the idea of the Kohen is to use the physical world to make harmony and beauty in the physical world. Because the garments of the Kohen were mainly l'kavod l'tifaros. The main reason for these garments were for glory and for beauty. You can say that the Kohanim were there to be beautiful, to be nice. The Kohanim were there in order to burn the sacrifices, to light the candles, the menorah, to burn the incense. That was why it was there. Not to, it says, what's this thing about the main thing that they were there for beauty and for glory? But the completion of the service of the Mishkan in the Holy Temple and in the tabernacle was, namely, that it would be beauty. In other words, that was the completion of it. It had to be completely beauty to the degree where not only did they do what God wanted, but they used the world ultimately in order to bring beauty into the world. Also, the physical world, both in Hayafe or Mechuba Biyoter, even the physical world had to be beautiful and nice. Until the physical of the world, you can use that even to serve holiness. And like we said before, that's the whole idea of the GEULA, putting the Aleph into the GEULA, into the exile, into all these ugly things that are in the world with pain and crime. And you don't have to go into details. The world is full of it. And says the Rebbe, all we have to do is put a little bit of godliness into it, and the whole thing can be made harmonious and beautiful. This whole ugly, right? How do you say, shockingly bad world will be suddenly transformed into one instant of good. I don't know, I'm sure you saw this, but there are these people that they do operations on them, right? And all of a sudden they can hear for the first time. Or they can see for the first time, or you can see colors for the first time. The guy goes berserk. I can see, this doesn't know where it's coming from. Right? Amazing. Hearing in some ways is even more shocking because the person sees, people dancing to music, and he sees people's mouths moving, and he can't hear anything. They can't hear anything. All of a sudden he can hear, it's a whole new. So he had an inkling that was something there. Here the Rebbe is saying the same thing to us. He's giving us this inkling that there's something there. That's why we say Shema Yisrael. Listen, Jews. Shema means to understand. We don't understand. In the second prayer before the second prayer before Shema Yisrael, we beg God to give us understanding. Rachem na'olin v'ten b'libeinu bina. Give us understanding. And the completion, the Kohanim, the whole ultimate Kohen is what's called the high priest. That he put on 8 garments. He had the breastplate, all these diamonds and the jewels. According to this, maybe we can say the reason that the great high priest had to have all of these, garments, but also it said that he has to be more wealthy. He has to have money, more money than all of the other Kohanim. And if he didn't have, they would make him rich. Why? Because the whole ultimate holiness of the Kohen is talking about when everything is holy. Even the physical world, even money is holy. According, like it says in the Midrash, like it says, Aaron Boba, Bakal Shah, all the time that the Kohen wanted to go into the holy temple, he had to go in bezot in this way. So we can say that the true place of the Kohen was not in the world, it was in the Holy of Holies. And this will be revealed in the future redemption. Namely what? When the completion of man will be transformed and the whole world will be transformed. And until this, it can't be, even the Kohen, the high priest, he can't go into the Holy of Holies all the time. Only on Yom Kippur, only in special conditions. But in the future, it'll be revealed in the whole world. Because then there'll be the total revelation of holiness. Okay, but what's the Rebbe trying to say here? There is already, or at least there was, in the world, in a revealed way, pure godliness revealed in a physical place. And it had to be physical. It had to be measured and limited. If the measurements weren't there, then there was no revelation. That's what it means to bring the Aleph, the oneness of God, into the physical world. Okay. Just like everything else in the Torah, there is a big teaching for this to every Jew. All the Jewish people, they're called Mamlechet Kohanim. We are a nation of priests. And not just regular priests, we're high priests. In the revelation, in the future revelation that's going to be in the in the future, like it said, like the Rebbe just finished saying, the whole world will be like the Holy of Holies, and every Jew will be like the high priest. So therefore, right now, as we are souls and bodies, we have some connection to the holiness of the Holy of Holies. Like the Rambam says, not only Shevet Levi alone were sanctified for the temple, but every single human being. This is not necessarily even Jews. That's what the Rambam says. Any human being that has a, how do you say, a wide spirit, and he wants to devote himself totally to serving the Creator, as he can sanctify himself to be Holy of Holies. That's what the Rambam says. According to this Midrash, we said that anytime that the Kohen wanted to, he could go in to the temple, not into the Holy of Holies, but he could go into the temple. So it says that every Jew has in his power, like he's found below in the body, to be in the level of the Holy of Holies. And we can say that this is really going to be revealed by the Moshiach in the physical world. And maybe we can even, there's a story in the prophets that in the time of a danger, as there was Yehoshua, he hid away Yehoash. Okay, this is a terrible story. I think it was in the time of Izebel. I have to look and see. But in any case, there was a time when there were all these terrible, weird wars that were going on. I could be wrong about that, but in any case, there was all these crazy wars that were going on in the the Jewish kingdom separated. There was the northern part that was called Israel, and the lower part was called Yehuda. And they were, anyway, so someone went around, he was killing all of I think it was Izebel. He was killing all the royal family because he wanted to be the king, or his brother was doing it. I'll look it up and I'll tell you the next time. Anyway, so Yehoshua, he hid away Yehoash. Yehoash, he was one of the seed of the king of Israel, could only come from the king of Yehuda, could only come from the tribe of Judah. And he was the last one of Yehuda. And his opposition figured he'd kill them all out, and then he would have a free reign. So he hid him away, and he put him in where? In the Holy of Holies. He hid him away in the Holy of Holies. Nobody's going to look over there. On what is our room that was above the Holy of Holies. And it says, Vayihi ata beit Hashem mitchabe sheishanim. And he hid him away over there 6 years. This now we can understand that when he was in the Holy of Holies, he had all of his physical needs. He stayed there for 6 years. It must have been that he ate and he slept, eating and drinking and sleeping. But he hid him away because it was necessary. There had to be a king of Israel, and the opposition was trying to kill all the kings. So we can say that since the true place of every single Jew is really in the Holy of Holies. And that's the way it's actually going to be in the future redemption. The whole world will be like Holy of Holies. So therefore, this was revealed when only in a time of danger that Yehoshua put Yehoash, the king Yehoash, he was just a baby at the time. Like it says, the difference between GEULA, that it will be the time of GEULA. In other words, now we're at a time of danger. So we have to do everything we can to put the Aleph in. The Aleph, that's what is the Holy of Holies. So we see that in the time of danger, it's a possibility to do a thing like that. They took Yehoash, who was the king, it was right, and they put him into the Holy of Holies because it was a time of danger. Now we're in a time of danger, says the Rebbe. We have to put the Aleph in. How did the Rebbe say to do it? We have to look at the three things. Like we can understand in the beginning of Parshas Kedoshim, that we're going to read this Shabbat. Kedoshim to you, you have to be holy because I'm holy. And when a person's soul is in his body, in this physical world, and that there is the commandment to be holy, there a Jew can be in a way of Kedusha, holiness, until the highest level of holiness that a person can possibly be, we're commanded in the Torah, Kedoshim to you. And like it's explained in Chassidus, what it says, Yochel Kamoni, it says, what is it? How does it start off? Vayam Hashem Moshe, Ta'ber b'nei Yisrael, Kadoshim to you, you have to be holy, ki ani kadosh, because I am holy. So it says, I am holy. A Jew, every Jew has to be holy because God is holy. God is infinite in the Holy of Holies. Every Jew can be that. It says, you might think that God is saying, because I'm holy, you have to be holy, like me. So it says, Kadosh Ani. What does it mean? It says, some places says, Bitmiya. You don't have to be holy like me. But there's other places that say, why you should be holy? Because I'm holy. B'nichuta. I'm holy. But Dara Kadosha, that in the future, every single Jew is going to reveal this potential that he is as holy as God is in the Holy of Holies. The whole world will be that way. So that's what the Rebbe is trying to say, that all of this is this potential. It's not just potential in dreams and, it could be imagination. This is actually there in potential. Like if a person has, $20 million in the bank, he just has to bring his identification and he'll get it. Here, I just heard a story. There was some guy, they have this Bitcoin thing, and he bought like, what is it, the 10, 15 years ago for $10 something, and now worth $20 million, but he can't find the number. He can't find the number. He gets 10 chances to find the number. If he finds that number, if he brings his proper identification, then that's it. It's all waiting for him. But us, unlike this person with the Bitcoin, he's never going to get it if he doesn't find that number. And we will get it. We're going to get the revelation, but it's there. All of this holiness and oneness and godliness, it's there, but it just demands us to do all we can to speed up the revelation. But it's there. The revelation of the Aleph in the GEULA, in the exile, which will transfer. And the Aleph is godliness. Thinking about God, talking about, trying to understand God, kind of have ideas of Torah in your mind and your heart. And this is what will bring revealed godliness in the whole entire world. Now let's see. Here, Yom Yom. Just do a Yom Yom. We've been doing this every day. Okay, ready? Let's do it quickly. As our custom, when we eat bread, to dip the bread into the salt 3 times, not to sprinkle the salt on the bread. Some people do that. We don't do it. At the festive meal on the second day of Shavuot in 1861, the Tzemach Tzedek said a story. At the festive meal of the second day of Shavuot, and my grandfather, Alter Rebbe, said, at the festive meal of the second day of Shavuot, my master, the Maggid of Mezrich, said, we were very careful. If you look in the Talmud also, they're always saying, this person said, in the name of this person, in the name of it says, if you say things in the name of the author, then it brings redemption to the world. You shall count for yourselves as usfartem lochem. What does it mean, kartem? Usfartem, to count. This word count, sephir, is also sapir, to be brilliant and bright, means you should make yourself brilliant and bright, shining. The Tzemach Tzedek said, my grandfather, Alter Rebbe, said, when he said this, he put his hands and he sang a nigun of the 4 stanzas, ya 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 yo 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 yo, with profound dveikut. And afterwards, he lifted his head up and he said, and how does a person make himself brilliant and shining? And he said, you have to count 7 complete weeks. In other words, by refining your 7 emotional traits, personality traits, each one, which is composed of all 7, in other words, refining all these 49 facets of your personality, by means of this, it becomes Shabbat, Shabbaton, they become Sabbath. Sabbath doesn't need any refinement. It says Shabbos, everything is already pure. That's why in Shabbat there's so many negative commandments, because Shabbat is already pure. Just don't mess around with it, like you're being given a diamond. Well, what do I do? Just don't scratch it. Just protect it. It says then we make all the 7 weeks into 7 pure Shabbats. And that's like we said, Lo Yavo Liyadei Avera. Look at the 3 things you won't even come to the possibility of doing something wrong. That's done by counting the 7 weeks. Have a good day with Moshiach now. God willing, at 3 o'clock, we will learn Chumash with Rashi. Maybe today we'll also do some of the Pirkei Avot, which we have left on the back burner, but now we'll come back to it. See you at 3 o'clock, I hope. God bless you all with Moshiach now. Thank you for coming. Here we go.